Hello, everyone, and thank you all for joining this stream. And many thanks to all the members of our community who will join later on or will watch this video in a recording. Today is 29th of May. Now it's 11 o'clock, and I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments, and hopefully you will find this episode informative and useful. Unfortunately, there was not a single donation during the previous 24 hours for this project, and therefore there was no questions or the commentaries that I can highlight out the news segment. And so I will end this stream after news. If of course, if there will be some super chat on Rumble, then I will react on it, of course, or some questions through support platforms during the stream itself, but I doubt about that. Anyways, let's start this live stream now. And first of all, let me give you this news from the Novosti that Russian Defense Ministry confirmed liberation of another two settlements. One is Zelenoye Polye in the DPR, and another one, Konstantinovka in the Sumy region. Let me show you on the map this settlement. So when it comes to Sumy region, Konstantinovka is a settlement right on the border with the Russian Federation. So this is the village, by the way, that is under full Russian control now. And Russian troops already created a move forward and created a sort of buffer zone right in front of settlement. So progress of special military operation continues in this area, and simultaneously we have reports that Vodolagi settlement, this one that you see on your screen, is also under full Russian control, although I have not seen Defense Ministry confirming that information yet. Maybe they will later on today. And when it comes to Zelenoye Polye, as you know, dear friends, there are quite a number of settlements that have similar names, and so one may be confused while hearing that Zelenoye Polye was liberated, because I reported about the liberation of Zelenoye Polye on a northern eastern flank of Pokrovsk-Milnograd agglomeration a few days ago at least, and this is that settlement. But Defense Ministry is reporting not necessarily about that settlement, but I guess about this one, another Zelenoye Polye, which is located right next to border with Dnipropetrovsk region. We can call this area South Donetsk sector of the front line. So progress of the special military operation continues, and as I said, in every update, basically, Russian armed forces improving their positions literally on daily basis, even if Western ruling class love to talk about some sort of a stalemate, which is non-existent. Russian troops are improving their positions on daily basis on all the sectors of the front line. That's been said, let's continue with this news that, according to RIA Novosti, air defense systems on duty intercepted 48 drones that were launched by Kyiv regime with assistance of NATO member states to strike deep into Russian territory. I can give you some more precise information on that. So 30 drones were destroyed, intercepted over the Belgorod region, in Oryol and Ryazan regions, as well as Crimea. 4 drones were neutralized. In Moscow region, 3 drones were intercepted, in Bryansk region 2, and in Tambov region 1. So as you can see, dear friends, Kyiv regime and NATO countries continue to strike deep into Russian territory in hopes that they will kill as many Russians as they possibly can. But air defense systems are doing their job quite well, and they are usually intercepting vast majority of drones that were launched by enemies to strike Russia. Also, this morning, this news broke that Russian official was killed in a suspected Ukrainian assassination. So, Russian government official who previously served in the Ukrainian conflict has been killed in a suspected assassination by the Ukrainian operatives in the southern city of Stavropol. Local authorities have reported, witnesses reported hearing a loud blast on Wednesday evening before discovering the bodies of 2 men in a residential neighborhood of the Russian city. On Thursday morning, Stavropol governor Vladimirov identified one of the deceased as Zaur Gursiev, a regional government employee. He said the investigators were considering as a possible scenario, including a terrorist attack organized by Nazis from Ukraine. Gursiev had entered the public service through a special program aimed at the training and employing veterans who served in Russia's military campaign against the Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky, and had demonstrated leadership qualities. According to his government profile, he had served as a deputy head of Stavropol, overseeing security and counter-terrorism. And videos are circulating, by the way, when a person is approaching official and then explosion is happening. According to information that I see in Russian segment of internet, this another person who approached Gursiev is Nikita Pinkov, and right at the point when he approached official, explosion happened, and now number of sources are speculating that this was a suicide bomb attack. Investigation is underway, of course, and I guess in upcoming hours, maybe or days, we will learn some more about this terrorist attack. While few details, according to RT, while few details have been officially released, some media outlets have suggested that Gursiev and their second man might have been killed by a hand grenade while socializing outdoors. Subsequent reports based on CCTV footage showing the moment of the blast claimed that the second man was a suicide bomber, and if so, this is not the first time when Kiev regime, this Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky, is deploying suicide bombing attacks to kill public figures here in Russia. Just a few months ago, there was another suicide bomb attack in one of the residential areas when attacker, the suicide bomber, was also killed together with person that he was attacking. So Kiev regime clearly deploys all the arsenal that this CIA and MI6 created terrorist organizations were implementing worldwide. Suicide bombing, car bombing, and so on. Yet again, investigation is underway, and soon we will learn more details about this. Yet another terrorist attack of Zelensky's regime. Meanwhile, while Kiev is behaving like that, Zelensky, his criminal associates, and their Western backers, when they are killing Russians whenever they can, well, Moscow continues to be engaged in these useless talks with their Ukrainian terrorists and their Western backers. And for example, we have this report from RIA Novosti that second round of negotiations between Russia and their terrorist Ukraine or Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky will take place in Istanbul on June the 2nd. So the second round of direct talks between Russia and Ukraine will take place in Istanbul on June the 2nd. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stated, Russian Foreign Minister, and there are a few more key points from his statements here. The Russian delegation headed by presidential aide Vladimir Medinskis is ready to present memorandum on a future peace treaty in Istanbul, stated Lavrov. He also went to say that the document contains all aspects for reliability, overcoming the root causes of the crisis in Ukraine. The Russian side is ready to explain them. Moscow also expects that those interested in success of their peace process will support a new round of negotiation. Yeah, of course, globalists are dreaming about peace. Russia thanks Turkey for providing a venue for these talks. So I guess now speculations will end about where exactly this second round of negotiations will take place. As you know, dear friends, there was statements from Western side that second round might take place in the Vatican, which was, this idea was dismissed straight away, because why would majority Orthodox Christian country, Russia, will participate in peace talks with at least formally another Orthodox Christian country, Ukraine. Although, by the way, as we all know, Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky has banned Orthodox Christianity in Ukraine and targeting Orthodox Christians, targeting Orthodox Christian churches. But anyways, why would Russia take part in negotiations in Vatican, which is an enemy of Orthodoxy, by the way, historically speaking? So that idea was dismissed straight away. And then aide of US President Kellogg stated that Geneva might be the place where the second round of negotiations might take place. Seems like Western ruling class globalists and their puppets in Washington and European capitals are very keen to move these talks from Turkey somewhere towards the west, because this is all their proposals: Vatican, Geneva, and then some other nonsensical places. And of course, Geneva was dismissed also because Russian officials were very clear, and on many occasions, that Russia no longer considers Switzerland to be a neutral state, because it is not, right? And today I'll give you news that once again confirms that Switzerland should not be perceived by anybody in this world as a neutral, because it is not. So speculations will end now. Second round of talks will take place in Istanbul. Of course, if globalists will not derail these talks, which might happen, of course. And also we have this report that Lavrov have briefed Rubio, head of US State Department, on Ukraine negotiations. I find it difficult to understand why Lavrov have to brief US official on anything, really. Is Russia under US control, or what is going on here? It's a legit question. Why? It's as far as I understand, these talks are between Moscow and Kiev. Why Russia has to brief Washington on anything? I mean, what the hell is going on here? It's wrong. But anyways, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov discussed Ukraine peace negotiations in a phone call with US Secretary of State Marco Rubio, neocon criminal, obviously. According to the Russian Foreign Ministry, Lavrov briefed Rubio on concrete proposals for the next round of direct talks between Russia and Ukraine in Istanbul. Both sides affirmed their intent to maintain constructive and respectful dialogue. Yes, of course. I mean, Trump just, last several days insulted Russian people in numerous ways, right? And we have now this statement that both sides admitted their intent to maintain constructive and respectful dialogue. Okay, I see clearly, by the way, how respectful US leadership is, how respectful in quotes, by the way, how adequate, and it is a shame that seems like Russian leadership sees things differently, because otherwise, in no ways Russian side should agree such a statement to be released, that both sides affirm their intent to maintain constructive and respectful dialogue. Washington is definitely on this page, not on this page, right? Clearly, and US president and a number of other high-ranking officials are demonstrating this literally on a daily basis, that they have no respect for Russia, they have no respect for lives of Russian people, they don't think life of Russian citizen worth anything. And the US president said it openly, by the way, in his post just 2 days ago, right? So, you tell me what the hell is going on here, but I don't understand. TASS news agency, meanwhile, is reporting, and by the way, I'm saying that this whole show that we are seeing now with these talks between Moscow and Washington, Moscow and Kiev, this is a shame, really. Because look what is happening. Look what is happening, by the way. Kiev regime, this Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky, is threatening head of Russian negotiating team, Medinskis, and his family, including kids, by the way, and all of them being put in the kill list of Kiev regime on that so-called peacemaker platform, including kids. And Moscow continues to talk with these terrorists and mass murderers. It's a shame. It's just a shame. That's what it is, man. The family of the Vladimir Medinskis, and advisor to the Russian president and head of Russian delegation at their Istanbul talks, was threatened by Ukrainian Nazis. Journalist Vladimir Solovyov reported this on air. The fact is that last few days, Vladimir Rostislavovich, his family, Medinskis' family, both their family itself and its relatives, both adult family members and the children, have been receiving threats of very specific content, which say that, and there is quote here, "We know where your children are, and we have a lot of stuffed scooters." And this is reference to Minder scooters that was also used by Kiev regime to assassinate people here in Russia, to kill people here in Russia. Hunting, and this quote continues, hunting at the series of terrorist, hinting at series of terrorist attacks that were carried out in exactly this way, as I just said, by the way. Solovyov stated during his show, according to journalists, the Ukrainian Nazis are opening a new page, and another quote, "Yes, in a world practice, responsibility for the life, health and the safety of negotiators always lies with their other side, the receiving side, if you will. There were cases when negotiators were threatened, and there were tragic cases, and they are well known, including in our history. Ukrainian Nazis took the next step. They went so far as to threaten family members. And when Vladimir Medinsky directly asked Ukrainian Defense Minister Rustem Umerov, who is head of Ukrainian delegation, Umerov admitted, Umerov stated that, and this is quote, "I will find out. I find out it is definitely not us," Umerov said. "Most likely it is our Nazis. We don't influence them." That was a response from Umerov, by the way, head of Ukrainian delegation in these talks, that he has no idea. It's not him or his inner circle. That is defense ministry, maybe he meant. It's the Nazis that they have no control of. That's how Umerov responded, by the way. I mean, how convenient, isn't it? And they're all operating under the same umbrella, by the way. They're all controlled by CIA and MI6. So we know that originally behind this blackmail and behind these threats is CIA and MI6. They just use their proxies, their Ukrainian proxies, to conduct this terrorist criminal activity. But that's what is happening. Children of Medinsky were threatened by Zelensky's regime, and still Moscow continues to be engaged in talks with these terrorists, man. That is a terrorist regime in Washington, terrorist regime in London, terrorist regime in all the other NATO member states, and of course their proxies in Kiev. If you tell me, dear friends, if this makes any sense for you, when your enemy continues to kill as many of your citizens as they can, when your enemy continues to conduct terrorist activity, terrorist attacks on your people, including on your negotiators, and you are still engaged in talks with them. I mean, to me personally, this does makes no sense whatsoever. This is shameful. That's all I can say, man. This is just shameful. TASS news agency, meanwhile, is reporting that Russia needs guarantees that conflict in Ukraine will not resume. Guarantees from whom? Question is. This is official statement from Foreign Ministry. I mean, I'm so confused, by the way, nowadays. I mean, last several days especially, when I'm watching, listening, hearing, reading statements of Russian officials. I mean, what's going on here? It's I don't know. So in the context of settling the conflict in Ukraine, Russia needs legally binding mechanisms that guarantee their impossibility of the resumption of the crisis. This was stated by the head of the Department of Partnership with Africa of the Russian Foreign Ministry, Tatiana Dovgalenko. Okay, I mean, she's official. I don't know why she's making this statement about Ukrainian crisis while she's responsible for relationships, partnerships with African countries. But anyways, this is a high-ranking official is making statements that Russia needs some guarantees. Guarantees from who, man? From Western ruling class? Minsk 1 and Minsk 2 was not enough to learn some lessons. Recent statements of Trump was not enough when he basically said openly that the lives of Russian citizens are worthless and means nothing. From whom you want any guarantees, for God's sake, man? What are you talking about? And this freaking nonsense. Just walk away. And don't make yourself be laughingstock, for God's sake, man. World is watching, isn't it? And probably are also confused because, I mean, what the hell, man? What is going on here? And by the way, also these days I noticed, I don't know if you will agree with me or not, but I did notice that there is some sort of attempt on the part of Russian public figures, even high-ranking officials, to sort of downgrade aggression that is coming from the White House, including statements of US President Donald Trump, and to shift public's attention to some other topics. And I will demonstrate now what I mean. For example, as we all know, dear friends, and I report about it, Donald Trump, went to go on assault spree towards, Russian president, towards Russia, Russian citizens. He went to then threaten all of us, and continues to do so, by the way. And you might be surprised, but I did not see on any mainstream media here in Russia quotes from Trump's statement when he called the Russian president crazy. Maybe I missed something there, but I did not see this on RIA Novosti. I did not see it on TASS news agency. I did not see it on many other media outlets. I see it on English version of the Artida, but I'm not sure if they published very same news in Russian too. And maybe vast majority of public here in Russia is even unaware that Trump was, openly calling Russian president crazy, right? Which is insulting, obviously. And maybe majority of people unaware that Trump was saying that Russian retaliatory strikes were, unreasonable, right? Which means basically that according to Trump, Russian lives are worthless. They're nothing. And if Ukrainians kill Russian citizens, it's okay. But Russia should not fire back. That was a Trump statement. And many Russian MSM, mainstream media outlets, ignore this, right? And also, there is kind of some attempt to downgrade these extremely aggressive statements from Trump. And for example, look at the statements of Lavrov here. Trump is getting filtered information on Ukraine conflict. Said Lavrov, let's go for details. I mean, US President Donald Trump is being misled about the Ukraine conflict by those pushing Washington towards supporting the Kyiv regime and taking a more aggressive stance on Russia. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has stated. Lavrov's remarks on Wednesday followed in response to Trump's latest criticism of Moscow. The US president rebuked Russia twice this week over strikes on Ukraine, claiming that President Vladimir Putin has gone absolutely crazy and was, as I said, RT reported in its English version, by the way, what Trump said. But, Russian language media that I monitor last several days, I mean, if I did not miss it, which is hardly possible. I mean, how could I miss her on every platform? And Russian language media was not that specific while reporting on Trump statements. Anyways, Let's continue. So that the US president rebuked Russia twice this week over strikes on Ukraine, claiming that President Vladimir Putin has gone absolutely crazy and was launching missiles and drones into cities in Ukraine for no reason whatsoever. Trump later warned that Russian leader was playing with fire. Responding to a question from journalist Pavel Zarubin, Lavrov said, "One thing is clear, Donald Trump and those who actually make decisions regarding the Ukraine conflict in particular are not being told everything. The information Trump, is given is filtered through a sieve which is prepared by those who want to draw America into more aggressive action against Russia in support of Kyiv regime," Lavrov added. And you know what difference does it make for us, for Russia, if Trump is getting full information or not? He said what he said, right? He insulted Russia, insulted Russian people, insulted Russian president. And you as a Russian foreign minister, is trying to explain this stuff instead of saying that, Trump, you should shut the fuck up. I mean, I know you are a diplomat. I'm talking about Lavrov. I mean, he's a diplomat, and he's, he always gonna be careful with his language. Okay, I get that, but for God's sake, you are attempting to explain why Trump is acting this crazy. This is sort of an attempt, as far as I can tell, this is an attempt to downgrade importance of a shift in rhetoric in the White House. And by the way, I don't think this is some sort of, confusion on part of Trump. This is a part of his policies and policies of the neocons that are in control of White House, right? They wanted some time, right? They wanted to gain some time before they will prepare next phase of escalation in Russia. That's why they push hard to initiate these useless talks, right? But now they are ready for whatever they have prepared to strike Russia, to further escalate. And they are changing rhetoric. That's what is happening. I'm 100% convinced on that. And if Lavrov sees it otherwise, then, I have a bridge in central London and I can sell it to him, And it's not just Lavrov, by the way. Unfortunately, there are more people that are playing same game. And for example, presidential aide Ushakov also went in the very same direction. Trump underinformed on Ukrainian strikes against Russian civilians, top Putin aide is stating. So US President Donald Trump is apparently unaware of Ukrainian terrorist attacks on Russian civilians that prompted retaliation from Moscow. Yuri Ushakov, a top foreign policy advisor to Russian President Vladimir Putin, has suggested. Trump has rebuked. I already said what he was saying. In an interview released on Wednesday, Ushakov told the journalist Pavel Zarubin, also, this Pavel Zarubin is everywhere, I don't know what's going on there, that the Kremlin is aware of Trump's criticism, but suggested that the US president is not sufficiently informed about what is really happening in the context of Russia-Ukraine confrontation. And okay, why you are saying this? Why you are sort of justifying or trying to explain, if not justifying, maybe that's a wrong word, but why you are trying to explain, inadequate behavior of Trump? It's not your job, for God's sake, right? I don't know. Share your take, dear friends, in the comment section, what you think about all this stuff. But I find it strange. I really find it strange that it's not the White House press spokesman that is trying to explain what Trump meant. And no, it's Russian officials that are trying to explain what Trump said and why he said it. Some anomaly, by the way. I'm losing understanding of this whole developments. But anyways, you might find also interesting that since Trump began deploying this extremely aggressive rhetoric, like 3 days ago, isn't it? There was no large or relatively large-scale Russian drone and missile strikes on Kyiv-controlled territory, on military and the logistical infrastructure of Russian enemies, which is also interesting. I mean, maybe coincidence, or maybe Trump's threats are actually working, and I don't know, maybe US has some leverage over Russian leadership that we are not aware about. I don't know. But for the last 3 days, I mean, I'm monitoring media outlets, right, on regular basis. I'm preparing updates constantly, and I have not seen reports about even relatively large-scale Russian drone and missile strikes on military and logistical infrastructure of the Kyiv regime, which is, could be coincidence. Things happen, but maybe it's not coincidence, and maybe Moscow is listening to Trump and they're acting according to Trump's orders. I don't know. You tell me what is happening. Or maybe Moscow is trying to not anger Trump anymore. I mean, wow. How we end up in this situation, man? I wonder. Anyways, meanwhile, dear friends, US continues to do what US does, right? To threaten, bully, and act inadequate. And for example, we have this statement from a representative of US State Department that Washington is ready to further apply maximum pressure on Russia. So US President Donald Trump is prepared to apply maximum pressure on Russia if Ukraine peace talks fail to produce results. State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce has told the Fox News, and you guess is best as good as mine what they mean by results, what they expect that these talks will deliver. Do they expect Russian capitulation or what? Because clearly West is on offensive, right? Not just in rhetorical terms. They're not just talking too much crap in direction of Russia, but they are expanding military aid to Kyiv regime, including with the long-range weapon systems, right? And threatening more and more, potentially, more and more people here in Russia, tens of millions actually, because in range of long-range weapon systems that soon could be deployed against Russia is actually vast areas of the Russian Federation. So, well, quite confusing developments, isn't it, when it comes to all these Moscow-Washington talks, Moscow-Kyiv talks? I mean, strange, very strange. Let's see what will come out of it. It's a useless waste of time, in my personal opinion, because no matter how much Putin wants to find working, relationships with Trump, no matter how much he wants to see real de-escalation, it will not happen, by the way. West wants to destroy Russia. US political class, including Trump, by the way, they want Russia to be destroyed and all Russians to be killed, exterminated, literally. That's what they dream about, right? And they are not even hiding this, for God's sake. They are not even hiding this. Just look carefully what they are saying, by the way. It's all out there in open, right? So they are existential threat for Russia, and no matter how hard Putin wants to see the escalation, and I believe he wants to see the escalation, by the way. I believe he never wanted to go as far as he did when he authorized special military operation. Probably he was very hopeful that Minsk 1 and Minsk 2 would work. He was looking for some ways to normalize relationships with the West, always, by the way, since he is in the power. And I guess he's still struggling to realize that West will never accept Russia. Never, ever. It's just not happening. West is existential threat for Russia. And they will continue attempts to destroy Russia. to kill as many Russian citizens as they possibly can and to harm them as much as they can. It's just so simple, man. It's out there. You don't have to guess nothing, right? Anyways, let's see. By the way, I mean, after all, it is logical to think that everything that has its beginning probably has its end also, and I think patience and restraint of Putin also has a end, right? And at one point, he will probably say that enough is enough. He tried everything, and their only option now is to really be focused on special military operation and to do whatever is need to be done to defeat enemies of Russia decisively and to secure Russia from this constant threat that collective West is presenting. It's going to happen, by the way, one day, but it seems like there is still, is this confusion in the Kremlin also, or the hope that they might actually normalize relationships with West. No, they cannot. It's just nonsense. It cannot be done. Not now, not in 10 years, not in 50 years, not in 100 years. Take a look at the history, by the way. Western countries will always try to destroy Russia. They are fixated on that. And this fixation goes from generation to generation to generation to generation. That's how Western so-called elites operate for centuries, right? And it's not going to change. Anyways, dear friends, before I continue, let me notice that as you probably understand, if you are new for this project, this media project is completely free or subscriber funded, I should say. And if you like my work, if you like my channels, if you think I bring something useful to community with my work, please consider to support this project and my work. You can do it through several means. You can donate through PayPal or Boosty platforms. Links are under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. You can subscribe to my Patreon page. That would be also great support, of course, because Patreon allows me to know approximately what kind of funds I have to operate with for the next month. It's a monthly paid subscription there. And I have page on Boosty too. I mean, you can choose from these two platforms. So you can subscribe either on one or another. You can choose your level of monthly support and become a Patreon for the project. A link is also on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. And well, during the streams, by the way, if for whatever reason you don't like to use PayPal or Boosty or Patreon, then during the live streams you can donate through Rumble or become a premium subscriber. That is, isn't it? Become a premium subscriber on Rumble, and that will be, of course, a great support too. All the links that I mentioned are on this video description box and in the pinned comment. So, and many thanks, dear friends, of course, to everybody who already helped her and continues to support her. Truly grateful for this unique opportunity to work in this field of news and political commentary. And I hope I'm doing something good for the community. I really hope so. Let's continue. And another big topic is, of course, long-range weapon systems that Kiev regime is already firing against Russia and might have in its disposal in short. And for example, RIA Novosti is reporting that German Chancellor Friedrich Merz stated that, well, Taurus missiles could be delivered to Kiev regime. He is considering such a possibility. So deliveries of long-range Taurus cruise missiles to Ukraine are in the realm of possibility, but we require lengthy training of Ukrainian servicemen, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz said in an interview with the ZDF TV. And of course, he is not completely honest here. We all understand that these weapon systems, Taurus missiles, going to be operated by German militaries, 100%. We don't even have to guess, by the way. We all remember this phone conversation between high-ranking German officers, isn't it? That was leaked by RT, that was, I believe, when German officers were discussing how they're gonna destroy Crimean Bridge with their Taurus missiles, right? They were not discussing that they're gonna train Kiev regime's military personnel to do it. No, they were discussing how they're gonna do it, right? They're gonna be in charge. And so, therefore, I guess either these Taurus missiles and their German personnel, military personnel that can operate with these weapons, is already in Kiev controlled territory or will be there in short. And most likely we're gonna see during this new phase of escalation between NATO and Russia, we're gonna see increased range in these long-range strikes on Russia, significantly increased range, because Taurus missiles have 500-kilometer range. British Storm Shadow and the French Scalp PG missiles that were already used against Russia hundreds of times, they have 300-kilometer range approximately, right? So significant developments, of course, and as I said in my previous updates, also on my latest program on Patreon and Boosty, probably Russian side should be ready to deal with their Taurus missiles also, alongside with Storm Shadows and Scalp PGs. And I have no doubts that Russian air defense systems, Russian militaries will do their best to protect their fellow citizens from these enemy strikes. And by the way, these strikes might take place very soon, either in the next several days or next several weeks, because we have this report from TASS news agency that Germany is stating that Kiev will receive long-range systems in a few weeks. So long-range weapon systems will be at the disposal of Ukrainian armed forces within a few weeks. This was reported by German Defense Ministry. So yet again, we don't have to guess nothing, isn't it? I mean, most likely these systems already on the Kiev-controlled territory. And as you can understand, this topic of increased range in strikes against Russia definitely anger many people in the Russian Federation, ordinary people that are paying attention to these developments, and there are also officials, public figures. And we have this statement, for example, that Russia is ready to shut down German Taurus missiles and strike not just the launch sites, but their places they came from. This was stated by State Duma Defense Committee head Andrei Kartapolov, high-ranking official, I will say, because he is head of Parliament Committee on Defense Committee. So probably he has much more knowledge on situation than publicly available. Also, this is not all, by the way, and this is, I guess, we can see as direct threat to countries that will be engaged in these long-range strikes. Germany, that is, potentially Romania, also because planes that will launch these long-range cruise missiles might take off in Romania, then use some of the airfields on Kiev-controlled territory as a jump airfields, or maybe even some roads, by the way, that will be adapted to be used as a jump airfields to refuel the planes, and then these planes might reach a Russian border, maybe even cross border and fly low and penetrate as deep as they possibly can and launch these missiles after that. That will increase, of course, range of strike significantly, right? So maybe Kartapolov meant that not just Germany can be targeted, or country of origin of these Taurus missiles, but also some other countries that will also be engaged in these attacks. Romania, for example. There are reports that Romanian airfields are already being used for strikes against Russia. So this would not surprise anybody, I guess. And as I said, this is not all. For example, RT's editor-in-chief, Margarita Simonyan, stated that Russia could target Berlin if German missiles hit Moscow. I mean, why just Moscow? Maybe, she didn't just elaborate. Maybe she meant that if German missiles hit Russian cities, Moscow or any other. But let's go through these details here. Russia would not rule out direct strike on Berlin if German personnel help Ukraine, if German military personnel help Ukraine target Moscow with the German supplied Taurus missiles. RT's editor-in-chief Margarita Simonian has warned speculation that Germany could supply Ukraine with Taurus missiles capable of striking targets up to 500 kilometers away and potentially reaching the Russian capital from Ukrainian territory was reignited after Chancellor Friedrich Merz said Berlin and its partners, US, UK, France, others had lifted the restrictions on the range of Western weapons Ukraine is allowed to use. German officials, however, have not confirmed any decision to send the Taurus systems. Although, as I already reported, he didn't also say that Taurus missiles would not be deployed. He said that it's a possibility, and therefore I think Taurus missiles already are on Kiev-controlled territory. There are some indicators for that. And by the way, also one should keep in mind that NATO countries can actually build their new cruise missile that will be hybrid of Storm Shadow and Scalp EG, for example, or their Taurus missile, and they could deploy this, which is going to be, technically speaking, not that difficult really for military-industrial complex of the West, and they can send these weapons into Kiev-controlled territory, and then let Kiev say that this is their own weapon, right? It's not the German weapon, not the British, not the French, not the US, but it's their own domestically built long-range weapon system. Maybe this is also their potential scenario that West wants to implement in upcoming days and weeks. So we should keep that in mind also. But anyways, let's continue with this news. In a post on Wednesday, in a post on the social media, Simonian warned that Germany could face dire consequences if the Taurus is ever used for attacking the Russian capital. In Moscow, officials, among Russian officials, it is being discussed that the German troops strike Moscow with the German weapons. If German troops strike Moscow with German weapons, the only option left for Russia is to strike Berlin, stated Simonian. She went on to explain that the Taurus strike on Moscow would have to be prepared and executed by German service members because the Ukrainians cannot maintain the Taurus or program it for a flight mission, which is correct. And very same can be said about Storm Shadow and Scalp EG missiles that UK and France are using against Russia for quite a long time. Hundreds of these missiles already being used. And well, I remember times before Scalp EGs and Storm Shadows were deployed, that a number of high-ranking Russian officials, also public figures, were coming up with somewhat similar statements that, well, Russia will retaliate and retaliate strong, and military assets of countries that will use these long-range weapons against Russia will be targeted there, not just on Kiev-controlled territory, but elsewhere also. And after that, as I said, hundreds of Storm Shadows were launched to strike deep into Russian territory, hundreds of Scalp EG missiles, also ATACMS missiles, by the way, US-made ATACMS. And, last time I checked, Moscow didn't target no military assets of US or UK or France. So therefore, maybe very same will happen now. And all these strong statements from public figures here in Russia or the officials is just attempt to, I don't know, I don't know what that even is, man. Maybe it's just attempt to play strong, but long-range weapon systems already being used against Russia hundreds of times. UK long-range systems, French long-range systems, US long-range systems, and somewhat similar statements were made then too by public figures here in Russia and officials. Did anything happen in terms of real, true retaliation on assets of these enemies? No. So maybe nothing will happen now too, and all this talk about striking Berlin and retaliating on German militaries and this and that is just also just a talk. Maybe, I don't know. But I guess it's worth this whole statements probably worth some attention at least. So I'm mentioning about it. TASS news agency, meanwhile, is reporting that Zelensky, who was in Europe, and maybe he still is in Europe, by the way, on yet another his trip to ask for more money and more weapons. Well, he stated straight away while arriving in Europe that he wants another 30 billion US dollars to continue conflict with Russia. So Ukraine needs 30 billion dollars from the West to establish weapons production and continue the conflict with Russia. Zelensky stated upon arrival in Europe. He was in Germany, I believe, and well, probably he will receive this money. Globalists and globalist-controlled regimes in Europe or in North America or elsewhere already allocated hundreds of billions of dollars for this proxy war that they are waging against Russia. So therefore, I think this 30 billion that Zelensky is demanding also going to be allocated. And Germany is already on that page. Germany is already agree with Zelensky that yes, Berlin will provide Ukraine with more money, more weapons. For example, we have this information that I shared on my Telegram and Twitter X page that Germany sends another 500 billion euros, 500 billion euro more in military aid to Kiev regime. So Germany will provide Ukraine with an additional 5 billion euros in military aid, according to Defense Ministry Pistorius. The Bundestag detailed their allocation, funding long-range weapon production in Ukraine. You see, dear friends, this topic of funding long-range weapons production in Ukraine is already being implemented in some ways. And maybe what I said a couple of minutes ago is exactly that is going to happen. When NATO countries will build their long-range cruise missiles, let's say, or whatever missiles, and they will let Kiev regime to declare that this weapon system is completely built in Ukrainian made, right? And maybe that's the scenario that globalists and their puppet regimes are working right now, because last several days I see this topic quite often, appearing in different media reports. This funding of long-range weapon production inside Ukraine. This is all BS, by the way. We all understand Russia will take out any facility that will be engaged in such activities. So safest way for globalists to, organize long-range strikes into Russia while claiming plausible deniability that this is not our weapons, this is a Ukrainian weapon, is to build these weapons somewhere in Germany or France or UK and then transfer to Kiev-controlled territory as if these weapons being built there. They might even mark, by the way, details of these weapons in Ukrainian. And also that once these weapons are intercepted and fragments being found, they will maintain plausible deniability in their hands because they can say, no, see, details there. It's a Ukrainian words there or something. Ukrainian flag. Okay. For what else Germany is allocating money? Additional munition, especially for air defense, repair facilities, and the joint military enterprise in Ukraine. Partial funding for Starlink and Ukraine's military communication systems, medical equipment. So another 500 billion euro of German taxpayers is going in pockets of Zelensky, his criminal associates, their corrupt German colleagues, and some funds. I mean, from these 5 billion euros, probably billion, eventually billion or two maybe, eventually will be spent on promised items or promised topics. Meanwhile, by the way, NATO is demanding from Germany itself to form 7 new brigades, which is about 40,000 troops. This was reported by Reuters. Yet, supplying more active soldiers will be a major challenge for Berlin, as the Bundeswehr already faces some 20,000 troop shortfall. So good luck with that. Good luck. Definitely, Germany going to fail to attract 40,000 citizens to join army. So therefore, most likely in either towards the end of this year or maybe next year, Germany and a number of other European NATO member states will start introducing, step by step, but introducing conscription. That's what is going to happen. Even that might not work, because I'm not sure that young generation in Germany dreams about being mercenaries of private military companies that Bundeswehr is become, or the puppets of the globalists. But who knows? Who knows? Without conscription, Bundeswehr will for sure fail to attract tens of thousands of people. It's just not happening. And also Germany. I mean, Germany does make a lot of headlines last 12 to 24 hours. RT is reporting that German Chancellor Merz once again went to say that he will block Nordstream 2 pipeline, which is destroyed, by the way, which is destroyed, right? So what is wrong with this crazies, man? So German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has pledged to do everything to prevent the Russian Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline from being launched. And this is, by the way, this statement is wrong in so many levels, isn't it? This Merz maybe not even realized it, that Nord Stream 2 pipeline was a German pipeline also. It was a combined project of Russia and Germany. And German taxpayers' money was thrown into this project too. Not just private business was engaged, but also federal funds there. And he is saying that this is a Russian Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline. I mean, German people should be embarrassed, by the way, by these statements and they're angered. But nothing to be said about Nord Stream 2 pipelines themselves. Both two pipes of this Nord Stream 2 is destroyed. It is destroyed, right? So no matter how many times you're going to sanction these pipelines, they are not working anyways, right? But maybe what is happening is that globalist control Europe is not happy with some forces in US that want to make some money in energy sector, and there were some initiatives, I reported about it earlier, that there were certain groups in US that want to get engaged in energy business. When it comes to Europe, they want to invest, according to some media outlets, in a Nord Stream, rebuild it, and then buy gas. And they want to invest also in pipeline infrastructure in Ukraine, and also in a Turk Stream, and then buy gas on the Russian border and resell it. Just resell this gas as American one to Europeans. So they basically want to make a good buck out of thin air. And, I guess globalists are not happy about it. Because that will, further increase dependence of Europe on Russian energy and also on US energy. But what other options do they have, really? I mean, I don't know. Do they want to destroy European economy completely because they need energy, and there is only so many places from where you can get this energy, right? One is Russia, another is US, by the way, in terms of LNG, for example, for sure. There is a Qatar, Australia, but Qatar and Australia mainly are focused, big players, by the way. Number one and number two players in an LNG sector is Australia and Qatar. They are mainly focused on global south because they pay more, right? They pay better, right? So I don't know, globalists might actually destroy completely. They are already on that path of destroying European economies, and it seems like they're going to continue to do so. With impunity, by the way, because it seems like a vast majority of societies in European states just don't care. I mean, I see no activity on their behalf, right, to prevent this craziness of their political leadership. So it is what it is. And by the way, this is also interesting news that Swiss authorities have allowed the state arms company to sell 71 Leopard 1A5 tanks to Germany. And of course, these tanks are eventually going to end up in hands of Kiev regime's forces. And I mean, this is another indicator, additional one. There's plenty of it, right? That Switzerland, in no circumstances, can be considered by anybody as a neutral state. It's total nonsense. And to save the face, by the way, what Swiss officials say is that these tanks will. I mean, Swiss is selling these tanks to Germany under promise that these tanks would not be transferred to Kiev regime. Do you believe in this, by the way? I mean, quite a weak attempt to save the face on part of Swiss leadership. Let's be real, right? You know, why political elites or political class in Switzerland decided to destroy their own country and whatever reputation that country had, I don't know. It's a mystery, but they are harming Switzerland so much, man, with this lustration, basically. That's what it is, isn't it? This is lustration of Switzerland. And hardly anybody with brains will ever consider Switzerland to be neutral, because it's not, right? And same can be said about Austria, by the way, although Austria is acting more carefully. Surprisingly, Austria is, in some ways at least, acting more carefully than Switzerland, although none of them can be considered as a neutral, of course. And I will end this news segment, dear friends, on this news that Musk, is leaving Trump's administration. So the head of the U.S. Department of Government Efficiency, Elon Musk, announced on the social network X that he will leave his post in the administration of President Donald Trump. His term, by the way, his first term is finishing, and seems like he is not. If he will receive contract to prolong his work, he's going out, by the way. And this is yet another my prediction that become true, isn't it? I was saying from the beginning, even before Trump's inauguration, when it became clear that Musk gonna be in the Trump's team, that I said that most likely. I was saying about Musk, and I was saying about Ramaswamy, that they will leave Trump's administration first or among the first. And I was correct, by the way. Ramaswamy never really became a true member of administration, real member of administration. And Musk is leaving just in the 6 months because he had enough. He realizing that Trump's administration is not about America first. Trump's administration is not about cutting federal spending. Trump's administration is not any different than previous administration or the previous. They all work for neocons. They all work for military-industrial complex, for multinational corporations, right? That Musk himself is representing, by the way, in some sense, right? And maybe he had some high hopes, but well, he's leaving now. We have a quote from Musk: "As my planned term as a special government employee comes to an end, I would like to thank President Donald Trump for the opportunity to reduce wasteful spending DOG's mission will only grow stronger over time as it becomes a way of life across government. Come on, man, this is just this post cannot be taken seriously. By the way, I mean he should be disappointed big time, Musk, and well, he should be genius, isn't it? Why he was thinking that Trump's administration would act any differently than previous ones, man. He is a literally genius of our times, and did made such a mistake. He sponsored Trump's election campaign for hundreds of millions of dollars, right? And even become a part of administration. Wow, even geniuses do make mistakes, by the way, right? And this is a clear example of that. So I predicted that he will leave, and he is doing exactly that. And by the way, I predicted also that there will be no serious cuts in federal spendings under the Trump, and that's exactly the case. U.S. debt will increase at least for several trillions, at least like 3-4 trillions during the Trump's presidency. Mark my word, by the way. If U.S. national debt stands on 36 trillion right now, when Trump will leave, that number will be around 40 trillion, potentially more, right? Just for a Pentagon, by the way, Trump is planning to allocate over $1 trillion. And this is happening in a country that lives on borrowed money. I mean, I can understand why Musk and many other people, by the way, are disappointed. Many public figures in U.S., especially among centrists, one may say, also among libertarians, by the way, they are so disappointed, isn't it? And they are not even hiding this, man. They are openly talking about it. Trump's administration is a big disappointment for them. Anyways, I guess I will end this live stream or the news segment now on this report. Hopefully you will find it informative and useful, dear friends. And yes, because there was no questions or the comments through any of the support platforms, PayPal, Boosty, no questions from Patreon community, and no super chat, I will end this program now. Thank you all for your attention, dear friends. And dear friends, if you come across my short videos that I might publish from this live stream on YouTube and Rumble, if you would have time, please pay some attention to it. Maybe you can click that like there too. And if you can, please leave some commentary under this in video, also in the comment section, and click that like button too, and share your opinion, what you think about news that I presented and my commentary. Okay, this is it for now. Have a wonderful day, dear friends, and take care. Thank you.